Hi guys, welcome to day 5 of the business plan training. And today I'm talking about your company, and we'll be continuing the process of lean planning to write your business plan in just 7 days. And with today's topic, the company, I'm going to totally simplify business structures, the accounting, taxes, and legality, because I want you to feel truly empowered by these structures. There's so much overwhelmment and confusion and almost anger around these areas, and I really want to dissipate that for you today, because when you understand these, as you move forward, you'll understand how you can gain funding and get people involved using these structures, so that when you're out there meeting people and getting your ideas, when you have a base understanding of these, then you'll be able to make the connections. It's a lot harder when you're to use these if you don't have a fundamental understanding of them. If you're just going to the lawyer later on with an idea about a business type you heard of, that's not too beneficial for you. And that's what most people are doing. And so there's a really loss of opportunity in seeing these areas as, more of a barrier instead of the empowering aspects that they really are, because they really enable you to have power, to create power, to get money, to get people on board with a mission. And I know that a lot of the business owners I help have a business for the purpose of making money, for the purpose of doing their trade, their work, maybe better than they could do it working for someone else, and making more money, of course. But a lot of those same business owners also have a desire to create other businesses, and especially to create things of purpose and impact, and to do things differently in our communities and the world. Entrepreneurs who end up, really successful, they typically own more and more businesses. So I want that to be you. Once you gain that real success and flow and understanding these businesses and making more and more money, as you deserve, since you're bringing more and more to the world, so that you have the power to think creatively and use these to support you. All right, so here we go. Every single business has two types. Every single business has a legal business type and also a tax business type. Okay? And the legality sets the entity structure. So an entity is something that exists like a human, right? According to legal laws. We as humans are protected by legal laws, and so are businesses. And then the taxes, the reason why taxes are so influential in the type of business you have is because in our economic system and in democratic systems, the taxes is how we influence social behavior, encourage business. It's how we influence things, right? So a lot of the legal rules are actually enforced through the taxes, and that's just kind of the nature of the system. So I know that kind of politics can make people instantly hear that word and like cringe, but understand that this is how, without these rules, we don't have access to this power, or everyone doesn't have access to this power, right? It's only the people with money. So these rules are what give us that power. And so, obviously how you feel about anything in business affects your ability to use it. So having at least a feeling of support from these structures is what I hope for you. So every business has a legal type and a tax type, right? And if anyone pays you for work you do and you're not an employee, you instantly have a business. And that business is called a sole proprietor. And sole proprietor is the only legal type of business that is not separate from the owner. It's the only business that actually is not a standalone legal entity, and instead it's integrated with the owner. It's not separate. Now, the benefit of this, especially if you're just maybe getting started in a business or you don't want to have any extra steps to take, the sole proprietor is literally the easiest thing. You don't need to keep your accounting and money records separate from the owner with a separate business bank account and keeping all the money separate. You do have to do that with every other type of business because they are legally separate from you. So the other thing that's nice and easy about the sole proprietor, which of course includes independent contractors, if you receive a 1099, anytime you're paid for work you do not as an employee. For taxes, it follows that same legal lines. You're considered self-employed, which means your business is filed with your personal taxes on what's called the Schedule C, just with your personal 1040, which means you file your personal taxes and business taxes together, one filing, which is the easiest thing to do. Now, the one downside to this from a legal standpoint is that your assets, meaning your house, your retirement plan, and anything else you own, is kind of up for grabs from a legal standpoint in the event you ever were sued. Now, so basically every other type of business here provides more protection in a way, specifically the LLC and the corporations. They provide what's called limited liability, meaning people can't take all those assets from you. And even if you don't have any assets attaching to future earnings, so people can actually attach to your future earnings. So the LLC is the next easiest option that actually creates a separate business and gives you limited liability, which means people can only sue your LLC, not you personally. But in order for that to hold up, you have to keep your personal money separate from your business money, and you have to keep separate records. And there's some other rules too, but not too many more. Not in comparison to all of these other entities like the partnership, corporation, not-for-profit. They are all more complicated. So the LLC is kind of like the next step. And for most people who are especially working for themselves, growing a business, they just want that kind of business structure to look more formal. And it's true, customers do see that as kind of a more legitimate business, right? So if that's why you want it, if that's like your biggest motivation, then you definitely don't want to go, the LLC is definitely a good thing to select in that circumstance. So with the LLC, there's two different options. With one member, a member is an owner, that's the easiest option because you still default to be self-employed, which means you don't have to file a separate business tax return, which makes things far more complicated at the end of the year. But you certainly can elect S Corp status once you start making a lot of money. That's when electing S Corp status can save you taxes. Now I'm going to jump in right here and just mention something. People get really caught up in saving tax dollars, and I'll tell you what I kind of think of that. Because I've really learned that people have a thermometer, in a way, for the amount of income they can have, I would stay focused on earning more money in your business than focusing on trying to find tax ways to reduce your taxes. And another way to think about taxes, if they happen to, bother you, I know they do a lot of people. When people sign up and join the military, right, to serve the country, we all, I think, overwhelmingly, people agree that that's something we support and we take pride in. So for me, it's always been confusing why people are trying to be so cheap on taxes, because taxes are what pay for that person to be in the military. Um, and if that helps you at all shift kind of that viewpoint, it's, like I said, these are the systems that support us. So however you can find a way to feel more supported by them, especially as I start talking about the next ones. And if you have the desire to create a bigger impact, that's what you should be able to take away from these next types of businesses. So when you have a multi-member LLC, that type of business is really similar to a partnership, but at this point, a multi-member LLC is more recommended because it has better limited liability protection. So you can kind of think of these as similar, but it's like the multi-member LLC is typically more recommended. It defaults to be taxed as a partnership, just like partnerships do. And of course, it can elect to be taxed in other ways. Once you are really making money, that's when you'll get to that stage. But I want you to think a little creatively about the partnership. One of the reasons why partnerships don't tend to be as effective as they can be is because people get together and they get all excited about a business they're going to go in on. Partnership is great for bringing together some people who have the money, maybe some people who have the assets, and some people who have the vision and want to do the work. And so you come together and you form a business. Now, often what happens is they go meet with a lawyer and they sign the operating agreement. The operating agreement, really in both of these situations, partnership and LLC, defines everyone's roles and how payments will be split and all that sort of thing. But they typically tend to be in very legal language and lots of default legal language. And so what that means is the people running the partnership actually have no real idea what's going on as far as who's going to pay who's going to show the reports, and so then problems arise when the money doesn't come in, and then those problems escalate and create a lot of negative energy, of course, in the business. One thing I would recommend in a partnership is to get really comfortable right away with being intimate about talking about how the business is going to run, what everyone's expectations are going to be, how the business is going to be planned and evaluated. And if you're an investor, it's just an opportunity for anyone involved to really use that partnership as accountability and as a resource for the people that everyone may know, to get good people on board that need to be hired and that sort of thing. So the next one I have here is the corporation. And a corporate structure can be used as well. Similar to the partnership, it's like you really want to use the structure. And with a corporation, the way it works is you have your stockholders that own stock. The company issues stock, which is basically just representing a portion of the business's value. And then management, the people who run the business, the president is often the founder, even though he no longer owns the business. Management is completely separate from the owners. That's not how it was in a single member LLC, right? You're the worker, you're the owner, you're the member. In a corporation, you have your owners completely separate from the people running the business. And so it's really, a corporate structure is really a way to generate money, to fund money. And you can create a private partnership and get investment that way, really using a pitch deck and a business plan, and even getting people who maybe want to be customers be the stockholders. There's very creative ways to do things. And I'm going to do some videos featuring different creative businesses so that you can get ideas. But this video is already going to be pretty long, so not in this video. The other thing to keep in mind with a corporation is that there is a board of directors. And the board of directors, really management, they work with management to oversee running the business. And they also report to the stockholders or shareholders. And the board of directors is how you get people involved with various expertise, right? Maybe they're experienced running a company like this, or just running a company, right, of a similar size or bigger. Maybe they have different skills that the managers don't have, so as to complement those. And that's why the not-for-profit, a nonprofit, is structured that same way as a corporation. It has to have a board of directors. And then instead of having shareholders, you have the donors, people who are donating money, because of course there's no owners. There's no profit. Or at least not a profit that's not being invested back in for the mission. So not-for-profit businesses can be formed under state law as far as the structure, depending on the state rules that they're in and the states they operate in. And then the not-for-profit 501c3, and there's many types, but that's the IRS filing. 501c3 is the especially hard one to get because donors have tax deductibility. But there's a lot of other types of not-for-profits. So if you meet someone who has a lot of money and they want to fund your nonprofit idea, and they are out there, my friends, they'll probably be contributing out of a trust. And so there's special structures that favor allowing them to do this. And that's why a lot of people you'll hear like, they start a nonprofit and it's a foundation to give money to their nonprofit. So associations, there are other types of nonprofits. Basically, there's many of them, and it's based on helping the person who wants to make a donation have the most favorable tax situation they can get, and essentially pay less taxes than just giving you the money outright and like handing it to you, right? So just keep that in mind and know that those options are there in case you come across that situation. Now, there are all types of new ways of getting money. There's an LLC 3, which some states have had for a long time now. It doesn't seem to have really taken off, but it's a social benefit LLC that still gives you limited liability, and it allows you to make a profit up to certain amounts, are how most of them work. But you're doing something of social good. I mentioned that one. Private loans. Sometimes people are forming partnerships when what they really want to be doing is giving a private loan. And trust me, giving a private loan is much easier than forming a partnership. So know which one you really want. SBA loans and business loans, specifically SBA loans, can be really good. I've just been working with someone on buying a property and building a facility and buying equipment. Any of those activities, the SBA is a really great loan for that. Now, when it comes to a real cause, crowdfunding is a really easy way to generate capital and not have as many tax implications as you would have, but the government totally accommodated for crowdfunding type sites. Now, you can't just kind of throw something up there. You really have to have a campaign around it. But if you can get people excited and involved and get them to your crowdfunding page and really engage them in the business and what you're going to be offering, we saw we're looking at one business that was on a crowdfunding site. It was so cool. They were like recreating Lord of the Rings, and people could give like 500 or 1,000, and then they were really reserving their room for a few nights there or something, their access. It was really cool. And then one of my favorite structures is the cooperative. A cooperative, like many of the things listed here, is not a legal type or a tax type. It's an operating style, often for corporations, but also LLCs. And it's really interesting. It's a democratic structure where the people who are the owners are also the workers. And there's some great examples of cooperatives. One is REI, where the people buying actually are becoming owners. You buy in and then you get a dividend each year. And that's a very loose example of it. But there's some really great versions of cooperatives. There was one company where the owner was getting older and he was going to retire. He was concerned about after he died. And so he turned the business into a cooperative to basically give his employees ownership and the right to run it democratically, because he figured that was the best way to preserve the business and culture he had created. So, very cool things. So I just ask you to consider down here, what type of legal and tax business have you chosen to be and why? And do you think you'll choose anything different in the future? So the simplest thing to do to have that limited liability and formal business is to be a single member LLC and stay self-employed. Just file your business with your personal return. I would recommend really focusing efforts on developing yourself and what you need to do to make more money and to make more money in your business before you focus on electing S Corp. Because a lot of times with tax rules and such, there's a big price to pay for learning these things and doing different things to save tax dollars. Corporations that don't pay any taxes, which is most of them, they have departments of people that they're paying to, dot their I's and T's and pay no taxes. So you have to be on a bigger scale for these tax things to be worthwhile. And personally, I think that that whole methodology is going to die as we choose to focus our energy on things that matter, like our businesses and what we're up to in the world. All right, so then down here, do you need to acquire money? And what are ways you can do that? Lenders, banks, partners, investors, and how could you creatively approach those different people? And lastly, when creating a business plan and when you have that goal in mind of a vision and what you're trying to create, I would urge you to look at who you need on your team and really consider your job of the visionary of this business as a job. And just have fun with it and consider money to be no issue. Plan it how you would love to plan it. Find the best of the best in different areas in your area if you're a local business, and find out what it costs. Get clear on the best way, because here's the deal. When you have a good plan and when you have the best people involved in each area, your likelihood of succeeding goes way higher than if you're trying to do things yourself. And instead of worrying about the money It's like first come up with the plan, like see what it would actually cost and at least find out like what would it cost to do it this way? Because you'd be surprised how many people are out there who are looking for places to put their money. When you use the right people, those are the business plans that investors want to invest in. They don't even really care about you having the best idea. It's about the people on the team because they know that that's what equals success. So really consider that. And then, like, don't be thinking about money when you're making the plan. Certainly be accounting for the money, and I'll be talking about that more tomorrow. But have fun with it and reach out to people and kind of, build your plan in a fun atmosphere, like how you would do it in an ideal world. Have fun with it and see what you come up with. All right. That is all for day 5. Congratulations if you're here on day 5. And I will see you tomorrow in day 6. I'd love to hear from you below if you have any questions. This was a big chunk of information today, but I know that it's an area of confusion, and I hope that we cleared some of it up. Do let me know if you have questions or takeaways, ideas, follow up. I'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.